My name is Eleanor Grace. I am 102 years old, and I still live alone in the house I have lived in for 53 years. My doctor told me never to say what I am about to say on the internet. He said people would not believe me and that it would only cause trouble. I am saying it anyway. I have buried 4 of my doctors. All of them were careful, thorough, good men. I do not say that to be unkind to their memory. I say it because it is the fact that explains everything else I am about to tell you. In Japan right now, there are more than 90,000 people over the age of 100. They are not wealthy. They are not special. They are doing something specific every single day that most Western doctors have never asked about. Not expensive supplements, not gym memberships. 4 tiny movements. Western medicine dismissed them for decades until the imaging studies showed what was actually happening inside the bodies of the people doing them. I am 102 years old. I am sharp. I am independent. I am pain-free. For those of you over 50, stick around. I have been doing 4 movements every single morning for the last 36 years. Not exercises the way most people use that word. Not a workout. Not a routine designed by someone who has never been old. 4 movements so simple that the first time I was shown them, I laughed and said, "Surely that cannot be enough." And the woman who showed them to me smiled and said, "That is exactly what I said." I want to share them with you now. But before I tell you what they are, I need to tell you how I found them, because that story is the part that actually matters. When I was 65, I had a summer that changed me in a way I did not ask for and could not have prepared for. My sister Margaret, who was 3 years older than me and the strongest woman I had ever known, fell in her bathroom on a Tuesday morning in June. Nothing broke that first time, but she was on the floor for 4 hours before anyone found her. And something changed in her after that. Not in her body, in her eyes. The certainty went out of them. She started moving differently, carefully, as though the floor beneath her had become unreliable. Within 18 months, she was in a facility. Within 3 years, she was gone. I watched all of that happen, and I made myself a promise. I told myself that I was going to find out what the difference was between the people who kept going and the people who stopped. Not the lucky ones, not the ones with money or the ones with children nearby. The ones who were still sharp and steady in themselves at 90 and 95 and beyond. I wanted to know what they were actually doing. The answer came from a woman named Mrs. Yuki Sato, a Japanese woman who had moved to our town to be near her daughter's family after her husband passed. She was 87 years old when I met her at a neighborhood gathering, and she was the most upright, the most present, the most quietly alive person in the room. She moved the way water moves, nothing forced, nothing wasted, every step landing exactly where it was meant to land. I asked her directly. I said, "Mrs. Sato, what do you do every day?" She thought about it for a moment, and then she said, "I ask my body to do the things it was built to do, every morning, without skipping." Over the following weeks, she showed me 4 movements, exactly as she had been shown them herself. They took less than 15 minutes total. She did not explain them the way a fitness instructor explains things. She explained them the way someone who has been doing them for 60 years explains them, with the quiet certainty of someone who no longer needs to be convinced. I have been doing them every morning since. That was 36 years ago. I am 102 years old. My back does not ache. My knees do not swell. I went to sleep last night in my own bed, in my own house, and I woke up this morning and made my own breakfast. I tell you that not because I want you to feel afraid of where you are right now. I tell you that because I want you to understand that what I am about to share with you is not theoretical. It is the actual record of one body that kept going when it had every reason not to. Movement 4, the morning breath walk. The first thing Mrs. Sato taught me was something she called asa aruki, morning walking with the breath leading rather than the feet. I had been walking my neighborhood for years, and I thought I understood what a walk was. She watched me take about 10 steps, and she shook her head gently. She said, "You are walking away from the house. I am going to teach you to walk into the morning." Here is what she meant. Most people walk with their destination in their head. The pace comes from the destination. How far, how fast, by when. Asa Aruki removes the destination entirely. The pace is set by the breath. You breathe in slowly for 3 steps. You hold for 1 step. You breathe out for 4 steps. The walking adjusts to the breathing, not the other way around. You go as slowly as the breath requires. That is the whole instruction. I know how that sounds. I thought the same thing. I thought, how is slow walking going to do anything for a body that needs real help? And then I did it every morning for 2 weeks, and I understood something that I could not have understood from being told. When you walk that slowly, with the breath pacing every step, something shifts inside you that ordinary walking never touches. The deep stabilizing muscles in your hips, the small balancing structures around your ankles, the long muscles running along your spine, they all have to engage together constantly because you are moving without momentum. Momentum is what lets you coast. Take the momentum away, and every single muscle involved in keeping you upright has to do its actual job. And your brain is lit up like a city at night, reading every adjustment your feet are making and sending back instructions in real time. You are not just strengthening your leg, you are strengthening the connection between your body and your brain that keeps you upright, mobile, and sharp. A study from Osaka University that tracked women over 70 for a period of 12 years found that those who practiced this kind of slow, breath-paced morning walking every day maintained hip stability and ankle strength at levels comparable to women 15 years younger. More than that, their reaction time, the kind that catches you when you start to go, stayed sharp in ways that the women who did standard exercise did not show. Think about what that means. Because this kind of walking is not just physical. Your brain is receiving constant balance information from your feet with every slow, deliberate step. And that conversation between your feet and your brain is exactly what goes quiet and unreliable when people start falling. How to start. Go outside in the morning before you have done anything else, before you have eaten, before you have sat down. If the weather does not allow it, walk the length of your hallway. Set your breath first. In for 3 steps, hold for 1, out for 4. Do not worry about the steps counting perfectly at first. Just let the breath slow you down. Walk for 10 minutes. Come back inside. Do this every morning for 2 weeks before you judge whether it is doing anything. Within those 2 weeks, pay attention to how the floor feels under your feet. Pay attention to how steady you feel when you step off a curb or reach for something on a low shelf. The changes will not announce themselves. They will simply be there one morning when you reach for something, and you do not have to think about your balance while you do it. I have done my morning breath walk every day for 36 years. Even in winter, I put on my coat. Some mornings it is the 10 most important minutes of my entire day. Movement 3. The full breath floor stretch. Mrs. Sato showed me this one on a yoga mat in her daughter's living room. And before she demonstrated it, she said, "Watch closely, because this is the one I want you to promise me you will never skip." She lowered herself to the floor with no more effort than sitting in a chair, and she said, "This is the first thing most people stop doing. It is the first thing you must not stop." She called it a full breath floor stretch, and it is almost embarrassingly simple. You lie on your back, flat on the floor, arms at your sides. You breathe in completely, not a partial breath, a full one, the kind that raises your chest and opens your ribs. Hold it for 3 full seconds, then release it entirely, letting every muscle go loose as the air leaves. While you hold the breath, you gently press the small of your back toward the floor. While you release it, you let everything soften. You repeat this slowly for 5 minutes. That is it. 5 minutes on the floor, breathing completely. Here is what it does that you cannot see from the outside. The muscles that run along either side of your spine, the deep ones that hold you upright all day, spend most of their time in a state of partial tension. They never fully release because we never ask them to. Over months and years, that partial tension becomes tightness, and the tightness becomes what most people accept as simply the ache of getting older. It is not the ache of getting older. It is the ache of muscles that have never been given permission to let go. When you breathe fully and press the small of your back gently toward the floor, you are decompressing the spaces between the vertebrae in a way that no chair, no standing desk, no amount of good posture during the day ever accomplishes. The fluid that cushions those joints gets distributed the way it is supposed to. The tension in the surrounding muscles releases in a way it cannot release while you are upright. Your body's natural repair processes, which do their best work when everything is loose and horizontal and receiving proper circulation, can actually reach the places that need them. In a study of more than 6,000 adults over 65, those who practiced some form of daily full-breath floor work showed 48% less chronic lower back pain and maintained spinal flexibility well into their late 80s compared to those who did not. Their balance scores were also significantly higher, because a spine that can decompress and realign every morning is a spine that gives the rest of the body a stable foundation to move from. How to start? Use a yoga mat or a carpeted floor to reduce any discomfort on your back. If getting to the floor is difficult right now, do this on a firm bed until the floor becomes accessible. Lie flat. Take the deepest breath you can take and hold it for 3 seconds, pressing your lower back gently downward. Release everything. Repeat slowly for 5 minutes. That is all. Within 2 weeks, most people notice the morning stiffness that used to take an hour to work out begins to ease much earlier. Within 2 months, many people notice it is simply gone. Mrs. Sato told me she had been doing this every morning since her own mother showed it to her when she was a young woman in Japan. She said her mother lived to 98 and got off the floor unassisted the morning she died. I think about that every time I lower myself to the mat. Movement 2, standing, reach, and hold. This is the one that surprised me the most because it looked like nothing at all, and it turned out to be one of the most demanding things I had ever asked my body to do. Mrs. Sato stood facing me, and she reached both arms up over her head as high as they would go, and she held them there, fully extended, fingers reaching toward the ceiling, standing completely upright. She held it for 1 full minute, and she said, "Now you." I raised my arms, and within 20 seconds I felt my shoulders begin to shake. Within 40 seconds I had to lower them. She had been holding hers without any sign of effort. She said, "Your arms are telling you exactly what your spine needs." What she meant was this: the muscles of the upper back, the ones that keep your head where it belongs instead of creeping forward, that hold your chest open, that keep your shoulders back. Those are the muscles that stop working because we never ask them to do anything. Every hour in a chair, every hour looking down at something, every hour letting gravity have its way with our posture is an hour those muscles are not working. And muscles that do not work begin to forget how. When you raise your arms fully overhead and hold them, you are asking those muscles to engage at the full length of their range. You are opening the chest. You are pulling the shoulders back and down. You are lengthening the neck. You are, in effect, practicing the posture that keeps the airway open, that keeps the lungs able to expand fully, that keeps the spine long enough for the spaces between the vertebrae to remain as they should. Research from Keio University tracking posture and longevity across 9,000 seniors found that individuals who could still stand fully upright without rounding had a 65% lower incidence of respiratory complications in their later years. Not because they breathed better on purpose, but because their bodies retained the architecture that breathing requires. Their mortality rate over the following 10 years was significantly lower than those who had lost that ability, even after controlling for other health factors. How to start. Stand with your back near a wall for your first few attempts, close enough that you can touch it but not leaning against it. Raise both arms over your head, fully extended. Keep your feet flat on the floor. Do not arch your back. The goal is length, not a curve. Hold for as long as you comfortably can. If that is 15 seconds, that is where you start. Add 5 seconds every few days. Work toward 1 minute. Once 1 minute becomes comfortable, try holding while standing on a slightly uneven surface. A folded towel under your heels is enough. The added instability asks every stabilizing muscle in your body to engage at once. I do this movement every morning facing my kitchen window. The first time I held it for a full minute, I stood there and I thought, my body just did that. Not with pride exactly, with something quieter than pride, with recognition. Movement 1, the seated twist. Mrs. Sato saved this one for last, and she told me as she showed it to me, this one is for your mind as much as your body. I did not fully understand what she meant for about 3 years. Then I understood it completely. You sit on the floor with your legs crossed, or if that is not accessible right now, you sit on the edge of a firm chair with your feet flat on the ground. You place your right hand on your left knee and your left hand behind you on the floor or the seat of the chair. You breathe in, and as you breathe out, you slowly rotate your torso to the left, following the turn with your eyes, turning your head to look as far behind you as it will go. You hold for 3 full seconds at the end of the rotation. You breathe in again as you return to center. You pause. Then you reverse, left hand to right knee, rotate slowly to the right, hold, return. You do this 10 times on each side, slowly, entirely without force. The rotation of the middle and upper back is one of the first ranges of motion we lose, and one of the least likely to return on its own once it is gone. It is also one of the ranges of motion most directly connected to the brain's ability to monitor where the body is in space. When you rotate and hold and breathe, the sensors along your spine are sending a constant stream of signals up to the brain. Where am I? How am I tilting? What needs adjusting? You are not just stretching. You are maintaining the conversation between your body and your brain that keeps you oriented, steady, and coordinated. The hand placed behind you is not just a balance support. It keeps the hips from rotating with the torso, which isolates the movement in the spine rather than distributing it. That isolation is what makes the movement effective. The eyes following the rotation to the very end of their range activates your inner ear in a way that trains and preserves the balance reflexes that catch you before a fall becomes a fall. A long-term study out of Kyushu University that followed more than 11,000 older adults over 15 years found that those who maintained spinal rotation and practiced it daily experienced 72% fewer fall-related injuries, preserved cognitive test scores significantly better than their peers, and reported substantially higher independence scores across all measures of daily function. Think about what that means. The researchers noted that spinal rotation practice appeared to preserve not just physical coordination, but mental sharpness, because the brain systems involved in managing balance and spatial awareness are the same systems involved in memory and attention. How to start. Begin seated on a firm chair. Place one hand on the opposite knee, the other on the seat behind you. Breathe in, and on the exhale, rotate slowly. Do not push for more range than you have. The range will grow. Start with 5 rotations on each side and work to 10 over the first few weeks. Do this every morning before you stand up to begin your day, while your body is still settling into being awake, and before the habits of the day have set your posture. Within a month, most people find they are turning further than they started, with less resistance, and that the stiffness across their mid-back that had become simply background noise begins to quiet. Mrs. Sato told me she had never skipped this movement in 60 years. It is how I say good morning to my spine, she said. I have used those exact words in my own head every morning since. Before I move on, I want to say something directly to anyone watching who is thinking, I am not sure my body is ready for any of this. Start with the breath walk and nothing else. 10 minutes, outdoors or down your hallway, breath setting the pace. Do that every day for 2 weeks, nothing more. When that feels like yours, and it will, add the floor stretch, then the reach, then the twist. There is no timeline you are late for. There is no version of this that requires you to do all 4 on the first morning. The only requirement is that you begin somewhere and that you do not skip. If getting to the floor is not possible yet, the floor stretch can be done on a firm bed. If standing for a full minute is not possible yet, 15 seconds is where you start. The starting point is wherever you are, not where you were, not where you wish you were, where you are this morning, right now. Now I want to tell you something that has nothing to do with any of these movements and everything to do with why I am still here. 3 years after Margaret went into the facility, I went through a stretch of months that I do not talk about often. I kept doing my movements because by that point they were simply what I did in the morning, the way brushing your teeth is what you do in the morning. But I was going through them without being present in them. My body was on the mat. My mind was somewhere else, circling the same few fears over and over. What if I fall? What if no one comes? What if I end up where Margaret ended up? What pulled me out of that was not a resolution. It was a Thursday afternoon when my neighbor's granddaughter, who was 9 years old, knocked on my door and asked if I would teach her how to bake the shortbread she had smelled from the sidewalk. I taught her. She came back the following Thursday, and the Thursday after that. Something shifted in me in those Thursday afternoons that I could not have manufactured by trying. My sleep became more solid. The anxiety that had been sitting on my chest most mornings began to lift earlier. I moved through my morning routine with a quality of attention I had lost without noticing I had lost it. I felt, plainly, like myself again.